All right, so we are looking at areas of parallelograms, triangles, and trapezoids. What basic shape did I not list here? What super basic shape did I not list here? Squares and rectangles. Why do you think I did not include those? Because they are parallelograms. You guys remember your notes from last class that under quadrilaterals you had trapezoids, kites, and parallelograms, right? Well, we'll talk about triangles because it's not a quadrilateral. But underneath parallelograms was rectangle, rhombus, and square. So the way that you find the area for a rectangle, rhombus, or square is the exact same way that you would find the area for a parallelogram. Okay? So let's get some definitions in here. We're going to do a lot of writing. We're going to do it fast. Perimeter is the what around the shape, do you think? The distance. Yeah, it's the distance. It's the distance around a shape. Perimeter is like this, right? I want to cover all the sides. Get all those sides. I want to get all of them, and just find that out. Okay? I add up all the sides. So perimeter, the equation for perimeter is P equals add up all the sides. Pretty easy equation, right? P equals add up the side lengths. So whatever shape you're looking at, however many sides it has, that would be the perimeter. That's how many numbers you would add. So for a triangle, how many numbers will you add? For a pentagon, how many sides would you add? 5. You would add 5. Okay. I'm going to fix this. I don't like the way this looks right now. That's a little bit better. Okay, cool. Now, area is the number of square units inside a figure. So another way to think about this is how many little squares can fit inside of it. Now, anybody know any units that are called square units? Can you get it? Yep. Say it again. Cubed. Actually, we're looking for squared. What are some units of length that we know? Inches. So what would be the area if the measurements is in inches? It'd be inches squared. What else? Centimeters squared. Give me some more. Feet squared. Meters squared, etc. Right? So if we're trying to find the area of something, we're going to take something times something else. Right? We're going to take one length times another length. If you have an inches measurement times an inches measurement, what are your new units going to be? They're going to be inches times inches, or inches squared. If you're measuring in centimeters and you take a centimeter measurement times a centimeter measurement, now you have centimeter times centimeter, or centimeters squared. Right? What's 4 times 4? What's another way of saying that? 4 squared, right? So what's 4 inches times 4 inches? It would be 4 squared inches squared. Your units square because you're multiplying units. Okay? So now let's dive into parallelograms. Parallelogram is a quadrilateral with how many pairs of parallel and congruent sides? 2 pairs of parallel and congruent sides. So it's 2 pairs of parallel and congruent sides. That's how you can determine that you're looking at a parallelogram. That's 2 pairs of parallel and congruent sides. So the key concept, the area formula for a parallelogram is base times height. We represent that with a lowercase b and a lowercase h. Please make sure you make those lowercase. A capital B and a capital H will mean something else later. Okay? So please make them lowercase. So a capital B and a capital H will mean something else for us later, so please make them lowercase. Now, notice the location here. The height can be in the middle of the shape. You can measure the height on the outside of the shape, but the base is always going to be touching that height. Something that's important to remember about the base and height for pretty much any shape is base and height must be perpendicular. Anybody know what that word means? So you gave me parallel, I like that. Perpendicular would be like this. Better would be like this, right? Perpendicular means they form a right angle. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to find the area and perimeter of this shape. If we have time, we'll go back and we'll find the other one. I'm giving you an extra example for all of them. So let's find the area and perimeter. Let's find the area first, because in my opinion, that one's typically the tougher one. So area. What's our formula for area?
E.
Actually, it's A equals B times H. Keep in mind, there are how many variables in this equation?
3.
There are 3. So just like any other equation, you're going to know 2 of them and going to have to solve for the other one. Do you think there are going to be some problems where you're going to be told the area and the base and have to find out how tall the object is?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is why we write the entire formula whenever we write a formula. We write A equals B times H. Because there are 3 variables and you'll be given 2 of them. Sometimes we'll be given these 2, sometimes we'll be given those 2, sometimes we'll be given those 2. For our notes, we're going to stick with just giving the base and the height. I think that you guys are skilled enough that you guys can solve equations when given other pieces of information. Okay? I think you guys have that skill. So let's plug in. Whenever I plug in, ladies and gentlemen, I plug in with parentheses. Because that reminds me of where I'm plugging in. I'm going to be honest with you, this is very helpful. So what's the base?
8.
8. Why not 5?
Because 5 is never mind.
That's okay. 5 is not the height. Why does 8 have to be the base? Because it's at the bottom? What if I rotated this entire thing, then 5 is at the bottom? 8 is still going to be the base.
It's like a straight line, there's no angles.
Now, I love these ideas. These are great ideas. Unfortunately, they have nothing to do with the height.
Oh,
Why is this one the base?
because it forms a right angle with the height.
It forms a right angle with the height. In a parallelogram, the opposite sides are parallel and congruent, which means that this is 8, which means this is 8. So this forms a right angle with the height. Therefore, it's the base. And therefore, 5 is not the height, right? 4 is the height. Tricky, right? 4 is the height. Why does 4 have to be the height? Because it does what?
It forms a right angle
With the base. Exactly. So why is 8 the base? Because it forms a right angle with the height. Why is 4 the height? Because it forms a right angle with the base. They're tied together. Okay. This is all review. And we can do this one in our head. 8 times 4 is 32. Now, we have to add our units in. What are the units of the 8? What are the units of the 4? So that means we have inches times inches, which is inches squared. So that's our area. Let's find our perimeter. Perimeter is a lot easier.
It's 26.
What's the equation for perimeter? P equals what? What do we write down?
Add all the sides.
Add up all the sides. So 8 plus 4 plus 8 plus 4? So
26.
8 plus 5 plus 4, right? Those are the numbers in the problem.
Oh, yeah.
It's your perimeter, which is outside. Perimeter
Oh,
means
it's the outside. So perimeter is not just add up the numbers that are told to you. Perimeter isn't just put the numbers together. Which is a mistake that people make, which makes no sense to me. But, okay. Perimeter is add up all the side lengths. So it'd be 8 plus 5 plus 8 plus 5. Remember how I said that these are opposite? These opposite sides are parallel and congruent. We wrote that down. That's our definition. And so it is 26 what? Inches. Why not squared? Because that's area. What's perimeter? Distance or length, right? So not squared. So once again, not squared. One little hint you might want to write down in the box of information where it says key concept, you may want to write down that B and H are always perpendicular. B and H must be perpendicular. That might be something worth writing down inside that key concept box. All right, now normally we would write down the next one. Normally I would say, you try this one, but because of the time's sake, pause the video. You can unpause the video now. Here's what it is. Don't copy it down, there's no need. You can get it at another time. Notice the units of the area are squared, units of the perimeter are not. Okay? Cool. Let's do triangles. All right, skipping on to triangles. All right, a little tricky, but still same idea. I want to show you something that's actually kind of cool in just a moment. Height, let's read it. Height is listen carefully, is the perpendicular segment from the vertex to the base that's opposite the vertex. Now, what does that even mean? In other words, height will always form a right angle with the base. Notice the orientation of all these. Base and height, whatever the base is, it doesn't matter which side your base is. as long as your height is what? Perpendicular to it. Notice here, if the bottom is the base, that means the height is over here. It's perpendicular to it. If this one's the base, notice this has to be the height. It goes from a corner of the triangle to the base. A corner of the triangle, if this one's the base, then there's the height. Did you see that these are all the exact same triangle? Can you see that?
Yeah.
They're all the same triangle, which means that any side can be our base as long as the height is perpendicular to it. Okay, that's going to be really important for us. One thing you might want to write down is B and H are always perpendicular. This little symbol means perpendicular, just so you know. It's a geometry term. Base and height are always perpendicular. So sometimes the height can be outside of the triangle, sometimes the height can be inside the triangle. It just depends on what the base is. All right, so key concept time. Same picture from that we've got. The area of the triangle equals not base times height.
Based on height.
There's a base and a height in the equation, but I want you to see something that I think is kind of neat. Everybody look at that first triangle. I'm going to double that triangle. Now what shape is this?
A square.
It's not a square. A square has 4 right angles. What shape is that now?
Parallelogram.
That's a parallelogram. So what's the equation for a parallelogram? We just wrote it down. How much of this parallelogram do we actually want?
1/2 of it.
We only want half of it, because that's our triangle. So what's the formula for a triangle going to be?
Based on height.
Divided by 2, but a better way that we typically will write it is we'll write it as half. 1/2 base times height. So it will look like this. 1/2 base times height. Now I'm not saying that base times height divided by 2 is bad. It's not. It's fine. Typically for these equations, though, we write it 1/2. So that way they're all the same form. That's how we write it. All right, let's find the area and perimeter of this triangle. So we're going to find the area first. What's our formula?
Based on height.
1/2 base times height or base times height over 2. I would recommend switching your thinking to 1/2 base times height. Area equals 1/2 base times height. You can do base times height over 2, that's fine. I would just recommend moving forward that you have the 1/2 in your mind. And now what are we given? Well, we need to find area equals 1/2 blank and blank. So we have to figure out what's the base and what's the height. So there's 4 measurements here. Only one of them can be the base, only one of them can be the height. So we have to look for that right angle. Do you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's that right angle, which means the height should be perpendicular to the base, which means that those have to be the height and base. Right? These two. That one and that one. Height, base. So our height is going to be 3.2 and our base is going to be 5. And then we just use our calculator to solve this. Calculate. It's not 16.
8.
8 meters squared.
Good. 8 meters squared. Why are these other two here? For the what? For the perimeter. Remember, what's the definition of perimeter? Or excuse me, the equation for perimeter. P equals, add up all the sides. Which of these 4 numbers will not be added up? Which of these numbers is not a side of my triangle?
3.2.
How do I know that 3.2 is not a side of my triangle? It's that dotted line. It's the height of my triangle, which makes it so that it's not going to be a side. There is one instance where the height of my triangle will be a side. That's with a right triangle. That's with a right triangle. Notice, what if this line was solid? Then it would be part of the sides. Okay? But it's not. So this is 5 plus 8 plus 4.3. Perimeter equals 17.3 meters. Not squared, right? That's triangles. Normally, I would say, now you guys try one on your own. One thing that I don't have on your notes are these two numbers, the 8 centimeters and the 8.1. You may want to write them down. Pause the video, try this problem. I have to prepare for later, you know. All right, and this is what you would have gotten if we had done this problem. Hey. So we've got our area, we've got our perimeter. Notice the 7.8 was not included in my perimeter. Why would the 7.8 not be included in the perimeter?
Because it's not actually a side.
It's not a side length. Why are 8 and 8.1 not included in the area?
Because they're not perpendicular with height.
They're not perpendicular with the height. The key for area for every one of these problems is perpendicular. Okay, we got short time, so let's get some trapezoids in here. Trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. Parallel sides. Here's the deal. There is one pair of parallel sides, which means that there's actually going to be multiple bases. The bases, notice bases, that's 2, of a trapezoid are always parallel. So the bases are the sides that are parallel, no matter what. That's the definition. The height of the trapezoid is always perpendicular to the base is. Why base is? In a trapezoid there will be 2. So what do you think the biggest mistake on a trapezoid is for 7th graders? People think there's only one base. With a trapezoid there are 2 bases. Why? Because there's one pair of parallel sides, the top and the bottom. Now, is it always going to be the top and the bottom? Could it be left and right? Yeah. Okay? So let's get our key concept. I know we're moving quickly, but 2-hour delay. Area of a trapezoid. I'm just going to tell you what this one's going to be. Notice, remember that the area formula for a parallelogram is base times height. Well, take a look at this. What shape is that?
Parallelogram.
That's a parallelogram. How much of this parallelogram do we want?
1/2.
A half. So it's going to be half, and we've got our height here. But what did I talk about the bases? There's 2 of them, so base 1 plus base 2. Notice here, here's base 2, here's base 1. There's base 2, there's base 1. Okay? So the formula, let me erase that part. Formula is going to be area equals 1/2 h, and then parentheses, we call this B1 plus B2. Here's the deal. Those are not exponents. Those are labels. Okay? It's just saying, right, these are not exponents. They're labels. They're just saying, that's the first base and that's the second base. We actually call these what they're called subscripts. Exponents are called superscripts. That's just a way that you can type on the computer, right? A superscript is a small thing that's above. A subscript is a small thing that's below. This is just labeling B1 and B2. So we want to write our area formula. We're only going to do area for this one. So let's write our formula out. A equals 1/2 h times B1 plus B2. Now, this one's a little tricky because I thought that the height should be perpendicular to the bases. So if this is a trapezoid, we're told this is a trapezoid, and we know that the bases are parallel. Well, this little arrow, that means parallel. We're told that this is a trapezoid, so that means that these 2 must be parallel, because we're told it's a trapezoid. Which means that these 2 must be the what? The bases. Does it matter which one is B1 or B2?
No.
What's 7 plus 2? What's 2 plus 7? Okay, what's 7 plus 4? What's 4 plus 7? See how it doesn't matter which one is which? So what's the height going to be? 6. How do we know that that's the height? That's what? Oops, didn't mean to erase that. Sorry about that.
Because of
Sorry about that. Didn't mean to erase all that. So we said that these are parallel. And once again, let me ask that question again. I didn't get the answers. Forms a right angle with the bases. It's the height because it forms a right angle. So we've got here b1 plus b2. So here's my height, that's 6. There's my bases, 7 plus 4. And so order of operations tells us we need to do what first? The parentheses. 6 times 11. Now this looks kind of like a triangle, doesn't it? So that equals 33. Talk to me how you got 21. What did you enter in? So the way that somebody got 21 is they did not add 4. They did half of 6, which is 3, times 7. They treated it like a triangle. This is not a triangle. This is a trapezoid. How many bases are on a trapezoid? 2. So how many numbers should there be in the base portion of our formula? 2. So there are 2 bases. Okay. I knew that that was fast. But that's all your homework is. Okay. One more time to review this. The bases in a trapezoid are parallel. There are 2 of them, which means there should be 2 numbers in the base portion of our formula. You have your formulas written down in your notes. So when you take this stuff home, we need to make sure that we are doing